We're going to be talking about Wi-Fi, also known as WLAN design and implementation. Part 1 is our introduction. And just to begin, I want to ask the question, who needs Wi-Fi? Well, everybody. Offices, hospitals, retail stores, warehouses, shopping malls, airports, industrial facilities. Wi-Fi is everywhere. And you use Wi-Fi every day. At home, at school, at work, your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, the Internet of Things devices are now using Wi-Fi. So that could include your TV, home appliances, vehicles. Also, industrial systems such as sensors and monitors and valves now can communicate on Wi-Fi. And they say about 60% of the internet traffic is one machine communicating to another machine. So a sensor could be telling a computer the status of a valve in a tank, and then the computer could respond accordingly. So machines are communicating to make your life better, hopefully. And there's a lot of new emerging Wi-Fi applications. I keep calling it voice over Wi-Fi, but it's being called voice over WLAN, which is basically voice over IP, but with a cordless phone. So in a large campus, let's say the Google campus or a Facebook campus, where employees are running around and collaborating, they're not necessarily sitting at a desk with their desk phone, and they need to be able to be in contact with one another. And the voice over WLAN allows them to do that. And it does that by giving each of them a mobile phone that connects to the Wi-Fi and brings in voice calls. And it's a logical next step from a voice over IP. Another technology that we're using is deploying iPads in retail stores. And of course, iPads need Wi-Fi to function. Why are retail stores installing iPads? Well, they're finding it difficult to compete with online retailers like Amazon.com. So if you walk into, Lens Crafters or Sears or somewhere to buy a product, or even if you walk into a smaller store in a mall like the Gap, you may not find what you're looking for, but the iPads or a Microsoft Surface tablet that the retail associate is equipped with, she can go online and let you shop online. So that gives the store a sale that they may not have been able to make based on just their in-store inventory. Enterprise Rent-A-Car is deploying iPads as we speak. Lens Crafters has been using them for a number of years. And the other retail Wi-Fi technology, of course, you know that most shopping malls have free Wi-Fi, but in addition, we're getting free Wi-Fi in some of the retail stores. The little tiny stores are offering their guests free Wi-Fi. One of the reasons is that the mall's Wi-Fi tends not to extend into the retail store. It's shaped to just cover the mall's corridors. Why is Wi-Fi good in your store? Well, you can track customer behavior. You can see what your customers are searching. You can see traffic patterns, who's walking and where, and you can monitor the type of devices that they're using for competitive analysis. You can say, hey, people with Apple phones tend to buy this product, and people with Samsung phones tend to buy that product, and you can look at trends. And of course, healthcare. Doctors want to go paperless. Hospitals want to go paperless. If you're in the hospital and you go to the lab and take a blood test, instead of printing out the results and then having somebody photocopy them and take them to your doctor, they automatically show up on his iPad. And that also saves time on billing, because the doctor can perform a procedure, include that in your file on his iPad. Accounting software automatically picks up the procedure and adds it to your invoice or bills your insurance company. And of course, logistics, manufacturing. A lot of companies are using inventory management systems in their warehouses. They're also installing RFID tags on many of their products or crates. And they're using handheld barcode scanners that allows the employees and the warehouse managers to see the status of every product in their warehouse, so they know exactly how much inventory they have, and they can maintain exactly the amount of stock that they need. And they can also see components in assembly line. For example, if somebody's assembling a massive excavator or a truck, they know how many tires they have, they know how many fenders they have, they know where each one is in their building. And of course, the location awareness system, which is being deployed in airports and shopping centers. You have to download an app, but then the Wi-Fi knows exactly where you are in the building, and it can tell you where you need to go. It can give you directions. It can tell you where your flight is. It can say, hey, you walk by the Lululemon store, boom, a coupon or flyer for Lululemon pops up on your phone. And so it's still emerging, but it's definitely going to be something that you're going to see more and more in the future. So in this video series, I'm assuming that you're pretty familiar with the basic network concepts. I'm not saying that you're a Cisco certified architect or something, but you understand the the 7-layer OSI model. You know some basic network technology, like you know what a WAN is, you know what a LAN is, you know what a VPN is, you know switches and routers. You're familiar with the BixI, so you understand basically how to install a structured cable at like Cat5e, Cat6. Maybe you don't know how to install fiber, but you know the difference between Cat5e and fiber. You have a little basic understanding of the electric code in the area that you're working, and you have a basic understanding of radio frequencies. Not saying also that you graduated from MIT, but you know that you understand that the Wi-Fi works on the electromagnetic interference and some general properties about how that works. And we're going to be technology agnostic. What I mean is there's a lot of different manufacturers of Wi-Fi products: Cisco, Aerohive, Meraki, Fortinet, Aruba. They're all good quality manufacturers, and each one has their benefits and their drawbacks, and they each have proprietary systems that maybe you might like one product over the other. And certainly Cisco is the most popular, but Aruba and Fortinet are getting used in the enterprise more and more. And I don't want to favor one over the other. At this point, we going to make this presentation based on my real world experiences, and I want to just emphasize that the IEEE and other international standards organizations have designed the certain Wi-Fi specs, and all the top manufacturers follow those specs. So whatever products you buy, most Wi-Fi products are compatible with each other. So we're not going to talk theory. I'm not going to put up like graphs and mathematical equations. I'm going to tell you real-world experiences that based on me and my company designing, installing, configuring, troubleshooting, and maintaining small and large networks, wide area networks, Wi-Fi for many different customers over the years, many industries. Includes small retailers and large retailers like shopping malls, warehouses, hospitals, university campus. So whatever application or client you have, you'll be able to get some pointers and be able to design a Wi-Fi system for them based on this presentation. I have a bad habit of calling it Wi-Fi, but you might see the word WLAN, which means wireless local area network. They're exactly the same thing. I just happen to call it Wi-Fi, but a lot of people call it WLAN. So when you start designing a Wi-Fi network, you need to ask some questions. And the first question is, how much time do you have to design, install, configure, test, and optimize the system? And you need to know that maybe, depending on the scope of work, you have to train people to use the Wi-Fi, and you have to set up a help desk or train the customer's help desk to manage the Wi-Fi. And so you need to ask your client how much time they need. You need to ask your client when they expect you to deliver a fully working system and see if that's feasible. Because the client may have unrealistic expectations, and you need to be able to come back to them and say, hey, this is not possible. You need more time. And one of the considerations is if you're deploying a network of thousands of access points or voice over IP phones or computers, the manufacturer may not have stock in the product that you need, and so you have some lead time in terms of being able to even acquire those components. And of course, the second question, which may also be the first question, is what is the scope of work? Yes, you're designing and installing the Wi-Fi, but are you responsible for wiring up the system? Are you responsible for pulling Cat5e or Cat6 or fiber? Are you responsible for configuring the equipment? Sometimes a customer's IT department is responsible for the configuration. Are you responsible for training people to use the system? Are you responsible for maintaining the system after it's been built? Or is that the manufacturer's responsibility or the customer's responsibility? And finally, are you responsible for deploying additional devices like barcode scanners, voice over IP phones, computers? And to what extent will you be configuring and maintaining and training those devices? And then you need to figure out which areas in a building need coverage. Are you covering a single floor, a warehouse, a large building, many buildings, a campus, a football stadium? Because this affects the time frame and the budget, especially if you're running new wire. And in older buildings, it's even worse because you're running cable in a building that might be 20 or 30 or 50 years old, and there are all kinds of complications that you don't even know about yet. Now, is this new construction or existing construction? If this is a brand new building that doesn't exist yet and you're responsible for installing the Wi-Fi, then you'll be working with the general contractor. And the general contractor is the person who is responsible for building the building. And of course, it's one of the things that we'll talk about later is how to survey a building, and that means going in there and taking measurements and figuring out where all the components of the system go. It's a lot harder to do that with a building that doesn't exist yet. So with existing buildings, you need to consider the fact that your installation will potentially disrupt the customer. And what I mean is, let's say you're installing Wi-Fi in a shopping mall. There are guests walking around the shopping mall. They're going to be in your way. Or rather, you're going to be in their way. And you need to plan this out. Now, the next question is, does a client require you to use a specific brand or model of equipment? So if the client, say, they've already got Wi-Fi in part of their building, and it's Cisco, and their whole network is Cisco, they may insist on you using Cisco access points and Cisco switches, or they may have already decided on, let's say, Aruba or something. Sometimes a client hires an outside consultant who figures out what they need, especially, let's say, a government agency. A government agency may have gone to an IT consultant, and the consultant says, hey, based on your needs, this is the system that you need to install. And then the government agency goes back and puts out an RFP and tries to get some bids on their system. And obviously this is going to affect costs and deployment times. I have seen, I had a client who not only insisted on the exact type of access point, they spec'd it down right to the brand of cable that they wanted to run in the walls. And who are the users and what do they want? Obviously not up to them, but we need to know how many users or devices we have in the system, because that can complicate the design. It affects the type of technology. More users means more equipment, and we need to figure that out. We'll talk more about that later, of course. And what is the client's budget, and is it approved already? You know, a client has some things that they want, but maybe they don't actually know how much it's going to cost. If they're not experts in Wi-Fi, they've not thought about all of the underlying structures and the amount of labor it would actually take. So communication with the client is very important here.